Hi everyone. This screencast is a follow-on from the using a text variable to capture a user's name screencast. And in that one, I inserted a text entry field at the beginning of the course. And when the user types their name into that particular field, we can reference their name throughout the whole course and personalize it a little bit. However, if we go back to the start and don't type anything into the field, the way that this particular demo is set up at the moment is that I can go to the next slide, and the place where my name would be, there's nothing. There's a little gap. And that would happen throughout the whole course wherever you've referenced a person's name. So what I wanted to show you is how you can put what's called a condition on that jump to next slide trigger that will stop the trigger from working until they've typed their name or something into the field. So if I close the preview down and go back to slide view, what we need to do is we actually are going to play around with and add the condition to the jump to next slide trigger, because that's the trigger we don't want to work. So I'm going to double click on that and open it up. Now we have our trigger, jump to next slide, when they click the next button. And by adding a condition, which is what I'm going to do next, that will stop the trigger from working until the condition has been fulfilled. So to add the condition to this trigger, I want to click on this Show Conditions button, and then I'm going to add my condition. Now what I want to happen is that the user has to type their name or something into that field. Now at the moment the variable doesn't have a value the way that it starts off, the text variable. Once the user types something into that field, then that name becomes the value of the variable. So my condition needs to be that I don't want that variable to still be blank. I want it to have a value, meaning that they've typed their name into that field. So with my conditions, I need to say that my condition is that the variable first name cannot be equal to or not equal to a value of blank. So what that, or nothing. So what that's saying, that variable, that box can't be empty. There needs to be a value, and to do that they need to have typed something into the box. And then I can say OK. So my trigger is still jump to next slide when they click the next button, provided that first name variable is not still equal to nothing, or how it is originally. And then I can say OK. So if I preview that out now, we can test that's working. I'll do nothing, and I'll click the next button, and it's not working. And it's not working because the condition's not being fulfilled, because I'm not typing anything into the box. Then if I go and type into the box, then I can jump forward. So that fixes that little problem. Now you could leave it like that. That would be quite okay. That would stop the next button trigger from working until they type their name or something into that field. However, you might want to also consider, and this is a bit of an extension, doing something to the slide so that it's obvious that that's why the next button is not working. Because some people, or most people, will probably go back and realize what they've done. They hadn't typed anything in. Some people won't, and we can give them a bit of a visual indicator that, hey, you haven't typed into the field, that's why it's not working. Now I'm going to do it using a layer. I'm sure there are other ways that you could achieve the same thing, and I've started to create it already. I've added a layer called No Name, and on that layer I've just put in another caption to say that you'll need to type in your first name before we can get started. And on the layer I've also added a trigger to change the state of my character, because he's an illustrated character, to worried, so that his expression will change a little bit too. Now at the moment, as an extra little thing, you can see at the moment my caption on this layer doesn't overlap the one underneath, so it would kind of display like that, which looks a little bit messy. So a little trick that you can do to fix that is, if you, on the timeline of the layer, and I'll just pop mine out so that you can see it, there's a little triangle here on the left, and if you click on it, it opens up and shows you all of the objects on your base layer. And what you can do is, using this show hide button for the objects that you want to hide, you can hide individual objects on the base layer. So now you can see my little caption is gone underneath. So whenever this layer is showing, the caption underneath will be hidden, because we've hidden it in the timeline of the layer. So our layer is set up, ready to go. Now I just need to add a trigger to make that layer show. So I'm simply going to go to the trigger panel, create a new trigger, which is going to be show layer, my no name layer, when the user clicks the next button, and then OK. Now, the way that the triggers are displayed in the trigger panel is that when you click the next button, it's not going to progress if the first name value is still blank, so it will prevent it from using. I don't necessarily have to put the conditions on this second trigger because the way Storyline fires the triggers is from the top down. So if there's nothing in the name field, that trigger is going to fire first, so it won't progress. And then in addition to that, then the layer will show, and then the person can then type in their name to progress. So if we have just a quick look to make sure that that's working, I do nothing. I'll hit the next button. I get my character change. I've got a little bit of instruction. Then I can type in my name and jump forward, and I've got a name, and that name will then be referenced throughout the course. And that's it. That's how you add a condition to a trigger, and in this case we wanted to stop the user from progressing until they've typed something into that text entry field. See you next time.